right, and we are back live. Wonderful. I see one person in the chat. Hopefully that number will be increasing very soon. I'm going to get this chat open on my phone in a moment, just so I can have that as well at my desk. That would be wonderful. Get this thing going. Let's see here. Still only one person in the chat. That's weird. It's a Friday. Are people skipping class today? Gosh. Marking them absent and whatnot. Okay. While I'm getting the chat open up on my phone right here, let me tell you guys the two major things that I would like to work on today. First, today, I am going to be introducing the first part of the project that I am going to be doing for this marking period. I have a project that I would like to get done for the third marking period in regards to exponentials and logarithms. And to introduce the project does take a little bit of, I don't want to say time, but for the lack of a better word, let's say time. I want to explain certain things about it because the project involves you doing internet research. But it's involving internet research on websites that you may or may not be familiar with. So I need to take the time to familiarize you with the website, or with the websites, I guess, that you potentially could be using for this project. And then we'll go from there. So today I'm going to talk about just one part of the project. Next week, I am going to finish explaining the other parts of the project. And I will be assigning the project before the end of next week. Just so you guys are aware of that. I will be assigning the project before the end of next week. Get this thing rolling. It'll be fantastic. So now I see 3 people in the chat. I see 2 comments so far, 4 people in the chat. Get those comments into the chat if you would. It'd be fantastic. The second major thing that I would like to work on, I want to give you guys a little extra practice with setting up and solving exponential word problems. I have a list of word problems that I want to do. We're not going to do every single problem off that page, but I will be assigning you certain problems to attempt in a short amount of time so that we can review them because I need to see where we're at. Okay. Now, what I'm going to suggest, and I'm saying this beforehand, because obviously, I don't want to say it in the middle and then you guys are scrambling or whatever. But I am going to be talking about the project. I'm not assigning it today, but I'm going to be talking about it. I'm going to suggest that if there's any piece of information that I show you today about the project that you feel, oh man, maybe I should write this down for future reference, perhaps that would be in your best interest. Just saying, giving you the full heads up right now, perhaps you want to write it down for future reference instead of being like, oh, I don't really remember it, whatever, okay. So, thank you all those comments in the chat, that's wonderful. Let's start talking about the project. Now, like I said, I'm not assigning it to the end of next week, but here's what's going to happen with the project. With the project, there's going to be a scenario in which you have to research multiple banks. It's going to be one part. You are going to have to research a car. You are going to have to research a house. Now, in terms of the car and the house, you will be picking different cars and houses. And I have a system of setting that up where no one is allowed to get the exact same car and the exact same house. You will be getting different numbers, obviously, as a result. I'll talk more about the car and the house next week. Today, I want to talk about the banks. Now, with the banks, you are going to be researching 3 different banks. Now, obviously, there's a limited number of banks in the world, so there's going to be a little bit of overlap and whatnot. I am going to show you the essence of the TD Bank website today. I've already shown you a little bit in the past, but I want to go into more detail today. I want to show you the essence of the TD Bank website. Now, in terms of the project, you are not allowed to use TD Bank. It's actually in the requirements of the project. You can choose any bank you want, but you can't use TD Bank. Because I'm going to show you what you need to know about TD Bank today, and I don't want that replicated on the project. So, like I said, if you want to write down what you need to write down, that is completely up to you. Obviously, the project's going to be a big deal for me. So, let me bring up the website. We'll get this thing moving. When you go to the TD Bank website right here, make that full screen, there we go. When you go to the TD Bank website, tdbank.com, obviously you can go to any bank you want, of course, but when you go to the TD Bank website, you need to be researching savings accounts. Now, you may have to dig a little bit. You may have to dig a little bit. Sometimes they don't give you all of the information that you immediately need about savings accounts. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. I'll have some stuff to write down as well. So you're going to be researching savings. So for TD Bank, you got to find where the savings accounts are. You can read around, kind of scroll. Oh my gosh, what do I do? I mean, it's under products, or in this case, it's under, well, look right there, savings accounts. You're not going to be doing a CD. You're not going to be doing an IRA. You're not going to be doing any of that. You're going to be doing a savings account that you qualify for. Now, in the terms of the project, you will be allowed an imaginary $10,000. It's imaginary. I'm not actually, So you have to keep that in mind. Now, it's like, oh, okay, I'm looking at the savings account, ready, set, save, earn up to 0.15% APY. Now, this right here, this is the first thing that you need to recognize. APY stands for annual percent yield. For the lack of a better term, that's your rate. For the lack of a better term, that is your rate. Now, is it 0.15%? I don't know. I can only get 0.15% with a TD Beyond savings. I have to dig a little bit, which I'll show you down here. But keep in mind that anytime you see APY, that stands for annual percent yield. And that, for the lack of a better term, is the rate at which you will be earning interest. Now, I could try, if I wanted to open the account. Okay, yes, US. You're being redirected. Okay, cool. Oh, check this out. Checking that comes in 3 ways, blah, 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 maintenance and ATM disclosure. Oh, interesting. Monthly maintenance, blah, 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 blah. Oh, it does require a certain minimum. To look at the account guide right here, to go into all of that. Sometimes this can potentially be helpful. Go back to here. Now, I'm purposefully kind of fumbling around on this website because now imagine you going around on this website. You're not immediately going to get the answers that you want. You're not immediately going to get the information that you're looking for. You're going to have to dig. This is more of a research-based project. Of course, there's math involved, but we'll get there. If I scroll down a little bit, I find all this information, which is what I showed you in an earlier class period. See, the thing is, this Beyond savings account, I'm only allowed to have it if I have a minimum $250,000 balance. Yeah, that's not going to happen with $10,000. It's not really going to happen at all. Same thing with this TD Growth Money Market account. I'd love to have this, but $50,000 minimum daily balance. I can't do that either. So I got to do this. And again, you see the APY. APY. The APY is annual percent yield. That is the rate that you're going to be dealing with. So for our purposes, I'm going to write this down temporarily, but I'm going to write down 0.02%. Here's the deal. On this project, I need evidence. Evidence is not you providing me with a link and I have to search the page. Evidence is you screenshotting the information. Screenshotting the information and providing that screenshot in your project. Do not give me a link and say that your evidence is there, because if I click that link, and I have to scroll through pages of information to find your evidence, I am not doing that. That was your job. But 0.02%. What else do I need to know about this TD Simple Savings Account? Let me see, view account details. $300 minimum, got it, because I have 10,000. No fee first year, blah, 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 blah. You can open the account if you want. Standard rate, all that information. Oh, here we go. $30 earns interest, yes. Bring online, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm looking for one specific piece of information. One specific piece of information. Huh. It's not there. Oh my goodness, where am I supposed to find this one single piece of information? Now at this point you're wondering, what the heck is he even talking about? What single piece of information do I need on top of what we've already done? I'm going to flip my screen over and show you what I'm referring to. This is the formula that we wrote down last class. Or not last class, recently. Did we do this last class? Okay. Feels like a million years ago. Anyway, we wrote this down. This is the compound interest formula. This is the formula that you will need in order to calculate things for the bank. In the project, they will tell you you have $10,000 to start with. Find a savings account. Well, we found one. Simple savings, TD Bank, 0.02%. Then they will say, okay, well, how much money will you have after this many years, and this many years? Do you remember what each of the letters stand for? Where am I putting in the 10,000? And for P, that's my principal. Where am I putting in the 0.02%? And for R, I'd have to convert it, mind you. I can't leave it as 0.02. I'd have to convert it, divide it by 100. And now T, depending on what the question is, T may be a different number. How much money will you have after 10 years, 25 years, 40 years? Yeah, that's what T will be. And then they'll ask you, okay, well, how much money will you have resulting? And that's your N. What's the one piece of information that we do not have?
N.
What is N?
The number of times it compounds
Per
month.
per year. Yeah, it's a weird thing. N is the number of times compounded per year. Everything is per year. The rate is annual, per year. T, time, is measured in years. N is the number of times compounded per year. Here's something you need to know about real life. Banks don't advertise the number of times compounded per year. They don't advertise it. They don't. It's in there. It's in there. It's in their paperwork, but they don't advertise it. Do you know why? They don't advertise it to the general public. This is not meant as an insult to you. This is what the banks think. The banks think y'all are morons. The banks think that. They think no one would understand it anyway. So why would we advertise the number of times compounded per year? All that people care about is how much money they're going to get. So let's just give them that information up front and hide the rest. For our project, we need to know the number of times compounded per year, and I need to have the evidence behind that. Now, for the most part, you can probably do a Google search with the bank that you're researching. Google, like, I'm not asking you to do this now. I'm going to show you something else, but you could Google something like TD Bank, how many times compounded per year, or something along those lines, and you could find the evidence for the project that you are looking for. But let me show you how much TD Bank hides this information. Let me show you. Check this out. TD Bank website. If you go on the TD Bank website, this is the simple savings account. This is earning 0.02% interest. If I scroll down past all of this information, past the dad and their daughter, past the funny video, cartoon video that they show you there, past the little piggy and all that stuff, past all the opening account and into the details down here, there's this thing called the personal deposit account agreement. And if you click that, I'm not even kidding you, it brings you to this 36-page document. A 36-page document. Has anyone opened a savings account at a bank? Yeah. Do you remember when you opened that savings account at the bank, all this paperwork that they gave you that you never read through? Okay, here's the thing. You open a savings account at TD Bank, they give you this. They give you this 36-page document agreement. How many people read it? None. Guarantee you. I guarantee you they haven't even read it. But this is the agreement that TD Bank gives you. You're like, what the heck? Now, the thing is, I did not read through this either. I did a keyword search. Do you guys know how to do keyword searches on here? Do you not know how to do keyword searches? What do you press? Control F. Yeah, let's do it. Watch this. This is how I had to find it. Control F, compound, right there. Found it. It was on page 17. Page 17 of a 36-page booklet. And then you finally find the bank compounds interest monthly. On page 17. It's the first mention ever of compounding on TD Bank. But it's there. They offer that information. So you go to TD Bank and like, you didn't tell me how many times you compound. Yes, we did. Didn't you read the 36-page agreement? No? Okay. They compound monthly. Now remember what we said. N is the number of times compounded per year. If they compound monthly, what is the value of N? Somebody needs to help me with this project, is what he says. If they compound monthly, how many months in a year? Oh. Yay, we did it! Yay! No, but literally, that's what the value of N is. If you compound monthly, N is 12. If you compound daily, which some banks do, if you compound daily, it's 365. Some accounts compound quarterly. How many quarters are in a year? And four quarters in a year, every 3 months. They do that. They do that because the different number of times that they compound affects how much interest they actually give you. The bank compounds interest monthly. Interest is credited on a monthly basis if you are blah, 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 a bunch of stuff. You need to find my evidence. What I expect on your project is a screenshot of the interest rate and a screenshot of the number of times compounded per year. Now, you could find that on the website, like I did, or you could find that through a search engine. Because a lot of banks, it's very difficult to find. And if you just find it through a search engine and then screenshot the results of that, name a bank that's not TD Bank. Wells Fargo. Again, I have no idea what Wells Fargo does, but Wells Fargo, number of times compounded per year, and then if it pops up on a Google answer thing, sure, there's your evidence. Screenshot it, so you know what the value of N is. So I'm going to take that information from TD Bank. I screenshotted that information. I organized it into what I needed to do. Let's see. I found out that N is 12 for TD Bank. P, my principal, I had $10,000 to start with. R is 0.02%, but I can't leave it as 0.02%. I have to divide it by 100 and get 0.0002, and that's the number that I type in. I have all of that information screenshotted. I organize it into my project, whether I'm doing a Google Doc or Google Slides or whatever, I don't know. Now, for the project, your math work can be handwritten. I just expect that you take a nice clean picture of your work and insert it into whatever electronic means you're going to submit the project with. Make it organized, make it neat, make it make sense, make it flow. Don't just have all the information for the project and then have 15 pictures after the fact. Incorporate the pictures into your project. So you can have all this stuff handwritten and then have the rest of the project kind of electronic. So I'm going to throw all that information in. So then the question may be, how much money after, give me a 2-digit number. 26, okay. After 26 years. Question mark. So it could be, that, when you were born, your parents put $10,000 into a TD Bank savings account at 0.02% interest that compounds monthly. And, they're just like, hey, let's figure this junk out. How much money are they going to have when they're 26? And they're finally off of our health insurance. I think that's actually true. You can be on your parents' health insurance up to your mid to late 20s or something like that, which I think is weird. But at the same time, it's I'll tell you a story. My wife was on her parents' health insurance up until the time she was 18. And then she was 18, she went to college, and her dad's health insurance wasn't allowed to carry her anymore. But then she and I got married. She was 23. But when she and I got married, I got the job here. She wasn't allowed to be on my health insurance for 3 years. So she went from age 18 to 26 with no health insurance. That's a scary bit. Oh, I hear videos again playing when they shouldn't be. Oh, goodness. Your phone's going to die using it that often. Decided. Anyway, back to this. 10,000 parentheses 1 plus 0.0002 divided by 12 parentheses to the 12 times 26 power. Let me bring that up to the top and zoom in a little. This is part of the reason why I wanted to spend time talking about the project today, because like I said, navigating that website is not easy. You're going to be picking different banks, and calculating this thing, you need to be very careful. I'm going to show you in a moment how you can type this in to the calculator that is on your Chromebooks. I want to make sure that you know how to type this in correctly, because people make huge mistakes when trying to type this junk in. And I don't want you to make those mistakes. So, calculator, let's see. TI-84. Come on, TI-84. There you are. Clear that junk out. 10,000 parentheses. Now watch how I type this in, because how I type this in is actually pretty darn accurate. Notice my use of parentheses. Notice my use of parentheses where I put in the 1 plus that fraction. The calculator will follow the proper order of operations. It will. I still have to put in the exponent. Which is 12 times 26. So, parentheses, 12 times 26. Notice how I put that up there. Again, the exponent does have to calculate separately. Please be very careful with how you're typing this in. Some people tend to do these calculations on their phone, and you really have to utilize those parentheses. You really, really do. Kapow! Oh, snap. 26 years. How much extra money do you have after 26 years? Yeah. That is ridiculous. I need you to think about that. Again, this is what I warned you about when I first introduced this concept to you of like banks and how you really need to learn how to diversify. You really need to learn how to diversify. Oh my gosh. 26 years, you get an extra $52. Holy crap. I don't do that anymore. Let's see, $10,000, $52. Now, here's the thing. Yes, that rounds up to 14 cents. And I am not going to fault you if you round up to 14 cents. I am not going to fault you. In fact, I'm going to write 14 cents in a moment. But do you know what banks tend to always do?
Round down.
Yeah, they always tend to round down. You guys ever see Office Space? The movie? No? There's a scheme in Office Space that deal with transactions and transactions with fractional cents like this, where they actually write a computer program in the movie to take all of those fractional cents that no one ever records, that no one has any records of. They take all of those fractional cents and they deposit it into a separate savings account. And over the course of 2 weeks, those fractional cents, over the course of millions and millions and millions of transactions, actually totaled like well more than a couple $1 million. Pretty sick. True life. Anyway, back to this. Okay. Big question, and then I'll get to the worksheet. Big question. How long until my $10,000 reaches, let's say $200,000? I was trying to think of like an amount that you could buy like a house with or something like that. How long until my $10,000 reaches $200,000? How long? How long implies that you will have to use what in order to solve this? I'm going to let that question sit in the air for a moment while I set this up right here. The question is, how long until my $10,000 reaches $200,000 at that rate? $200,000 would buy you, a nice small home in this area. It would, a nice small home. Where's my variable in the equation? Where is it? What am I going to need to solve for it? Ooh. First of all, what is the variable that I'm trying to solve for? Time, t. Where is it?
Yeah.
In the exponent. What am I going to need to solve for it?
Logarithm.
I need logarithms. If you are solving for an exponent, you need logarithms. If you are solving for an exponent, you need logarithms. This is going to get a little dicey. I'm going to show you exactly what you have to do to solve this problem. First and foremost, we need to divide both sides by the initial amount. We need to divide by 10,000 to get that 10,000 off the problem. There goes the bottom of this thing.
There we go.
Get in there. Here we go. Okay. If I divide by 10,000, just doing a quick calculation right here. $200,000 divided by $10,000 is 20. 20 equals, parentheses, 1 plus 0.0002 over 12 to the 12t power. Now is the moment for logarithms. Now, yes, if you wanted to, you could figure out what's on the inside of those parentheses and make it a decimal, but I'm going to leave it be. I'm going to leave it be for a moment. I'm going to leave the parentheses alone and leave it as that fraction because it'll actually be a bit cleaner if we do so. Instead, now is the moment that I need logarithms because I need to get that exponent by itself. Logarithms get the exponent by itself. Logarithms allow you to solve for the exponent, to isolate the exponent. Watch what I'm going to do. I'll write this a little bit larger. Notice where everything went. Notice where everything went. First of all, the exponent is by itself. The exponent is by itself, as logarithms allow you to do. Next, the base that was on the exponential is the same exact base that is on the logarithm. Now, what's beautiful about this is that on your Chromebooks, you have the TI-84 calculator that can get this calculation done for you. This log base junk, parentheses 20, equals the exponent. It gets the exponent by itself. The base that is on the exponential is the base that is on the logarithm. I need to go to the calculator right now and get this portion of the problem done. This portion will get it done. So hold on. Calculator. Math. Log base. I'm literally going to type it in exactly as I see it. 1 plus 0.0002 divided by 12. Go over to the parentheses. Literally, I typed it in exactly as I saw it. I didn't have to do anything crazy. I didn't have to do anything special. I literally just typed it in exactly as I saw it, and I'm going to put a 20 in there as well, because that's what's inside the main parentheses. That number may seem ridiculous, but it is accurate. We're almost there, though. We're almost there. Because if I go back to this, that number, 179,745.4, I'll round it there, is equal to 12t. Notice that it's equal to 12t. What do I have to do to get the answer, though? What do I have to do to get t by itself?
Divide by 12.
Yeah, divide by 12. And literally, I'm just going to have the calculator do it for me as well. Go back to here. Divide by 12. Notice it's minimal calculator stuff. You just need the calculator for some of the crazier calculations that you're going to do. I'm going to flip back to my, there it is. Look at that junk. in order to turn your TD Bank account from $10,000 up to $200,000, which mind you, again, $200,000 is what it costs to buy a small house in this area. If you were to leave your $10,000 in the bank, it would take roughly almost 15,000 years. That is accurate. That is accurate. I don't think TD Bank would be around that long. When you become an adult, make sure that you are putting your money in sound investments. Mutual funds, retirement funds, things that you know will be around in 30 to 40 years. Don't just leave it in TD Bank and hope for the best. Also, don't invest in like fly-by-night companies that are like, hey, we're going to make millions on this, and then you make nothing. Don't do that junk. Unless you really know what you're talking about, stock market wise, But yeah. Now, question. When you think about TD Bank and you do this calculation and you see this number, does this just make you want to burn TD Bank to the ground? Just saying, it makes me want to burn TD Bank to the ground. Not that I would. Not that I planned it. Now, again, this is the nuts and bolts of the bank section of the project. This is the nuts and bolts of the bank section of the project. You are going to be researching actually 3 different banks. Then, out of those 3 banks, you are going to choose one of them to move forward with to actually put your money in. And the one that you actually put your money in, that's the one that you're going to be doing these calculations with. And that will be one part of the project. Again, one day you're going to have to do this stuff for real life. You're going to have to find a bank. You're going to have to invest your money. You're going to have to figure out how to put your future together. Question, do you guys know what inflation is? Has no one taught you what inflation is? Inflation is the buying power of money. Inflation technically shows like how much something is worth. So for example, if you have $1 and you go to the store, you can buy 1 candy bar, correct? But next year, inflation might be 3%, meaning you still have $1, 1 physical dollar that you walk into Wawa with, but when you go to buy that candy bar, it's no longer $1, it's worth $1.03. And now you can't afford the candy bar. It sucks, but that's generally what inflation is. The value of things go up, but that physical dollar that you hold is still worth just $1. It's insane. Really, it's insane. As long as you are earning interest more than 2 or 3% per year, and I say 2 or 3%, I'm talking about retirement, I'm talking about 401ks or 403bs, I'm talking about the stock market mutual funds. As long as you are earning more than 2 or 3% interest per year, then you can stay ahead of inflation. Otherwise, your money is losing value. People don't teach you this stuff. Well, I'm trying to. Okay. Here's what I'm going to do. Those of you in the chat, I'm going to be posting a PDF in the next few minutes. This PDF is going to basically be this worksheet with word problems. Now, this worksheet, listen very carefully. I am going to be assigning a homework assignment using problems from this worksheet. Of course, the assignment on Google Classroom will have the PDF. But for those lucky that are here, you can use this printout if you want. But I want to do a couple problems with you today. So right here, there's 4 in there. There's 4 in there to pass back. There's 2 in there. Pass back. And like I said, I am going to be posting the PDF in about a minute, less than a minute, really, so that you guys in the chat can experience the joy that we are right now. Let's see. I've got a classroom, your class, right here, add, file, browse, subjects, 2, next one's word problem, boom, PDF for today. Now, like I said, I am going to be assigning you some homework from this PDF. I am going to be assigning you homework from this PDF. But I would like to do a couple problems with you on that. And I'm actually going to, well, once I go over one, I'm going to give you a couple to try on your own. So, let's start with number 2. Zoom in on number 2 right here on the screen. There we go. And there we go. So for those of you that are here, obviously you have this worksheet to look at. For those of you that are in the chat, you have the PDF to look at as well. Let's talk about this. In 1985, there were 285 cell phone subscribers in the small town of Centersville. The number of subscribers increased by 75% per year after 1985. How many cell phone subscribers were in Centerville in 1994? This is what we have to set up now. First of all, there's 3 ways to answer this question. Is this a growth? Is this a decay? Is this compound interest? What is this problem? Is it a growth? Is it a decay? Or is it compound interest? Yeah. What is the initial value? Because now what I'm going to write down, check this out. Since you're telling me it's growth, and I agree, I'm going to write down initially this formula that we have used in the past. If it is a growth, you will use this one. If it's a decay, you will use the 1 minus R. And if it is compound interest, then you will use the fancy formula that we did at the end of class last time and the beginning of class today. What is my initial value?
285.
Okay. What do I plug in for R?
0.75.
0.75, exactly. Don't put in 75, you put in 0.75. Now here's the big question. What do I plug in for X? That's the big question. What do I plug in for X?
9.
I do. Because 9 years have gone by. That is exactly the type of rationale that you need to have with this problem. That is exactly what you need to be thinking when you are going through a problem like this. They want to know how many cell phone subscribers will there be in the result, meaning they are solving for Y. In this case, well, Y equals, as you're telling me, 285, parentheses, 1 plus 0.75, and you're telling me to raise it to the 9 power. Yes. Couple things. Number 1, as a reminder, the rate that they give you will always be a rate per time unit. That time unit that is on the rate needs to be the same time unit that is on the X. And in this case, you said 9 years. Yes. X and R need to be the same time unit. 75% per year, X is measured in years. From here, it's just a matter of throwing that stuff in and seeing what you get. So I'm gonna plug it in 285 parentheses 1 plus 0.75 to the 9th power. Holy crap! I get this number, 43871.99. Tell me, where should I round this number? Where should I round this number in the context of the problem?
Round down.
You could round it down to what? To a tenth, a hundredth? What do I round it to? What place do I round it to?
I rounded it down to 10.
To a tenth. I would go a little bit farther. You know why? What does this number represent? What does this number represent in the context of the problem? What units would you put on it?
People, subscribers.
Yeah, you can't have a fraction of a person. You can't have a fraction of a person. You can either round this up to the next whole person, or you could round this down to the whole person, because the context of the situation declares that you are talking about cell phone subscribers. You pretty much want to round to the nearest whole person in this case. Cell phone subs. It's representing people, actual people, cell phone subscribers. Let's see. I want to give you guys a couple of problems. I want to give you number 3 and 4. I'm sorry, 3 and 5. I want you to take the next couple of minutes, and legitimately, this should only take you a few minutes, but I want to give you a little bit of time to get these done. I want you to get done numbers 3 and 5. Be very careful with the wording. Be very careful with the wording. See what you can do with numbers 3 and 5. Go. Let's see what we got real quick before this class period ends. Number 3, bacteria can multiply at an alarming rate when the bacteria splits into 2 new cells, thus doubling. Technically speaking, if you are doubling, the value of B is equal to 2. The value of B is equal to 2. Your rate is technically 100%. If you are doubling, you need to recognize a rate of 100%. This goes back to our notes from several class periods ago, where I made a big deal about doubling and if something was doubling, what the rate actually was, and it's something we do have to recognize. If we start with only 1 bacteria, meaning our A value is 1, and it doubles every hour. Notice the time unit. It's doubling every hour. Your rate is per hour. How many bacteria will we have at the end of 1 day? Well, Y equals 1 parentheses. Technically, you could either just put a 2 there, or you could do 1 plus 1. But what power am I raising it to? Yes. I have to raise it to the 24th power, because even though it says 1 day, the value of X needs to be the same unit as R. The value of X, or the unit on X, needs to be the same unit on R. It's doubling every hour, so I have to have it like that. This should have been a final answer of 16777,216 bacteria. 16,777,216 bacteria within 24 hours after starting with just 1. It's funny. In years past, I would teach that problem and people would be like, whoa, I can't believe bacteria can spread that fast. And now I look at all of you in masks behind plastic barriers. And I'm like, oh, now it makes a bit more sense. Oh, snap. Okay. Finally, number 5, and we'll wrap up with number 5. The population of this town in Nevada, Winnemucca, whatever, can be modeled by that equation, where T is the number of years since 1990. They ask 2 questions. First, what was the population in 1990? And then, by what percent did it increase? First of all, what was the population in 1990?
6,191.
Yeah, and there are 2 ways of getting that. Number 1, you recognize that 6191 is the initial value, which is A, 6,191 people. The other way of recognizing that is saying to yourself, well, okay, what do I plug in for T? Yeah, because no years have gone by. You would plug in a 0. And if you plug in a 0, this calculation would just be 6,191. Second question, by what percent did the population increase? Now remember, Y equals A parentheses 1 plus R to the X power. Those parentheses are broken up into 1 plus R. Or, for our example, 1 plus what? 0.04 or 4%. Yeah. That's the percent by which it increased. Like I said, I am going to be assigning you some problems off of this worksheet for homework. Some of them will be as straightforward as this. Some of them may require logarithms. Some of them may require the compound interest formula. You'll see. I'm going to sign up before I leave today. I would like it due Tuesday, but you'll see all of that on Google Classroom. I'm going to post it to Google Classroom. Y'all have a great day. I got to get down to study hall.